The ship emerged from the light, and everything was wrong. Commander Day 1 gripped the armrest of his chair as the vessel shuddered back into normal space. The journey through faster-than-light travel should have taken 6 months. The instruments told a different story. They told an impossible story. 850,000 years, Hannah whispered from her station. Her hands trembled over the controls. Commander, the stellar drift patterns match projections for 850,000 years into the future. The bridge fell silent. 4,000 souls aboard the Eternal Horizon had left Earth's colonies behind for what should have been a routine exploration mission to the galactic rim. Something had gone catastrophically wrong with their jump drive. They had not traveled through space alone. They had been thrown forward through time itself. Day 1 forced himself to speak calmly. "Show me Earth's system." The main screen flickered to life. Where the blue jewel of humanity's birth world should have blazed with the lights of billions, there was only darkness. The orbital rings were gone. The moon colonies showed no lights. Mars was silent. The vast stellar farms that should have surrounded the sun were absent. "Try the emergency channels," Day 1 ordered. All of them. Static. Pure, empty static across every frequency humanity had ever used. Ji Woo, the young navigator, pulled up system after system. The core worlds. The industrial clusters. The research stations floating in the void between stars. Every single location showed the same thing. Silence. Darkness. Nothing. "There should be 100,000 star systems with human presence," Hannah said quietly. "I am detecting 0 artificial signals. 0 electromagnetic transmissions beyond natural stellar radiation. 0 quantum communications. Commander, there is nothing out there." Taemin, the ship's chief physician, stood from his medical station. "We need to address the crew. People are already panicking. I have 20 patients in medical bay experiencing shock." Day 1 nodded slowly. He had trained for disasters. Equipment failures. Hostile aliens. Even ship-wide emergencies. No one had trained him for the extinction of everything he had ever known. "All hands," he spoke into the communication system. "This is Commander Day 1. I know you are all afraid. I am too. What has happened to us is beyond our current understanding. But, we are still here. We are still human. And, we will face this together. I promise you, we will find answers." The promises felt hollow in his mouth, but, they were all he had to give. They drifted through the solar system for 3 days. Every scan brought more confusion and horror. Earth's surface showed signs of massive cities, far larger than anything from their time. But, they were all ruins now, eroded by time. Crystallized. Strange. Something happened to them all at once, Hannah explained during a meeting with the senior staff. "Look at these scans. The buildings did not collapse from age or war. They transformed. The molecular structure of every artificial material has been altered on a quantum level. It is like reality itself rejected them." "Could it be a weapon?" asked Jae-hyun, the security chief. "No weapon I know could do this across an entire planet simultaneously," Hannah replied. "This would require rewriting the laws of physics in a localized area. The energy requirements are impossible." Ji Woo spoke up hesitantly. "There is something in high orbit. I have been tracking it for hours. It is not natural. The object was a station, ancient and dead, but still intact. Unlike everything else, it had not been transformed. Its architecture was human, but far more advanced than anything the crew had seen before." Day 1 ordered a boarding party. Walking through the station's corridors felt like walking through a tomb. The air was stale but breathable. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Everything was covered in a fine layer of dust that had accumulated over millennia. This station was abandoned in an orderly fashion, Jae-hyun observed. No signs of panic. No bodies. They just left. They found the archives in the station's core. Crystalline storage devices that had somehow survived the ages. Hannah worked for hours to interface with them, translating protocols that had evolved far beyond anything from their era. When the holographic displays finally activated, they showed humanity's history. The real history. After their time, humanity had exploded across the galaxy. Faster-than-light travel had become trivial. Terraforming had transformed thousands of worlds. Humanity had numbered in the trillions, spread across 100,000 star systems. They had become masters of matter and energy. They had extended their lifespans to thousands of years. They had touched the edges of what it meant to be human and pushed beyond. The records showed cities that floated in the void. Planets restructured into perfect spheres of habitation. Stars themselves harnessed for their energy. Humanity had become gods in all but name. And then, 50,000 years before the eternal horizon arrived, the record simply stopped. The final entries spoke of something called the shift. A debate that had consumed humanity for generations. References to ascension. To transcendence. To leaving the physical universe behind entirely. They were trying to evolve beyond matter itself, Hannah breathed. They wanted to become beings of pure consciousness. The last video log was from a man named Hyun-woo. He identified himself as the chief archivist. His face was tired, aged far beyond what any human from day one's time would have thought possible. To whoever finds this, Hyun-woo's recorded voice echoed through the empty station. I am sorry. I am sorry we failed you. I am sorry we made this choice. The Ascended won the debate. They forced transcendence upon all of humanity. Every man, woman, and child was pulled from physical reality into something higher. I do not know if they succeeded. I chose to remain behind. I chose to die as a human rather than become whatever they intended to create. If you are watching this, you are the inheritors of an empty galaxy. But, you are not alone. I have left something for you. Coordinates. Answers. A warning. Please, find the last archive. Learn what we did. Learn from our mistakes. The hologram faded, leaving coordinates burned into their display. Ji-woo checked the location. It is 8,000 light-years from here. Inside a neutron star's accretion disk. That is impossible, Tae-min said. Nothing could survive there. Nothing we know of, Hannah corrected. She looked at Day One. Commander, we have to go. Those coordinates were left specifically for whoever came after. For us. Day One stared at the empty station around them. Somewhere in this galaxy, scattered among dead worlds, there might be answers. There might be hope. Or there might only be more silence. Set course, he ordered quietly. The crew needs to know there is still purpose. Still a reason to continue. As the eternal horizon pulled away from Earth's orbit, Day One took one last look at the dead homeworld. Humanity had reached for godhood and vanished. Now, the last 4,000 true humans were alone in an empty galaxy, searching for answers among the ruins of transcendence. The silence of space pressed in from all sides, heavy with the weight of 850,000 years. The neutron star was beautiful and terrible. It spun so fast that space itself twisted around it, dragging reality in spirals. Around it, a disk of superheated matter glowed brighter than 1,000 suns. Nothing living should exist here. Nothing should survive. Yet the archive was there, exactly where Hyun-woo's coordinates had promised. How is this possible? Ji-woo asked, staring at the readings. The structure was massive, larger than their entire ship, suspended impossibly within the accretion disk. The radiation alone should have destroyed it millions of years ago. Hannah worked frantically at her console. It is generating some kind of field. Look at these readings. Space-time is being folded around the structure. The radiation, the gravity, the heat, none of it can touch the archive. This is technology beyond anything we found in the records. This is something from humanity's final years. Getting close enough to dock required every bit of skill Jiwoo possessed. The gravitational forces tried to tear the eternal horizon apart. Alarms screamed warnings. But, slowly, carefully, they approached. The archive seemed to sense them, opening a docking port that had waited 50,000 years for visitors. Day 1 led the boarding team personally. Hannah and Taemin accompanied him, along with Min Seo, the ship's chief engineer, and 6 security personnel. They wore the heaviest protective suits available, though everyone knew the suits would be useless if the archive's protective field failed. Inside, the air was fresh. The lights activated as they entered. And, standing in the central chamber was a man. Jae-hyun raised his weapon instantly, but Hannah grabbed his arm. Wait. Look at him. Look at the edges. The man flickered slightly. Light passed through him in places. He was a hologram, but unlike any they had ever seen. His eyes tracked them as they entered. His expression showed curiosity, relief, and deep sadness. "Hello," the hologram said. "I am Hyun-woo. Or rather, I am what remains of Hyun-woo. A recorded consciousness, sophisticated enough to think, remember, and interact. You found the first archive. That means you are human, or at least curious enough to be worth talking to. Please, tell me. What year is it? How long has it been?" Day 1 removed his helmet slowly. "We come from what you would call the early colonial period. We were thrown forward through time. We arrived approximately 850,000 years after we departed. By our calculation, the shift occurred 50,000 years ago." Hyun-woo's holographic face showed pain. 50,000 years. I had hoped someone would come sooner. But, I suppose time means little when everyone you know is gone. He gestured, and the chamber came alive with holographic displays. "Please, sit. I will tell you what happened to humanity. I will tell you what we became, and what we lost." The story unfolded in images and words. Humanity had spent 800,000 years evolving, learning, and growing. They had solved death itself, extending life indefinitely. They had reshaped worlds and stars. They had created art and music that transcended anything from the ancient past. They had been glorious. But, with glory came questions. What was the purpose of immortal life? Why remain bound to physical matter when consciousness could potentially exist in purer forms? Why limit themselves to 3 dimensions when mathematics suggested more existed? "We fractured," Hyun-woo explained. Not violently at first. It was a philosophical debate that lasted thousands of years. 2 camps emerged. The Ascended believed humanity's destiny was to leave physical reality behind, to become beings of pure thought and energy existing in higher dimensions. The Anchored believed we should remain in the physical universe, perhaps helping younger species evolve, maintaining and protecting reality itself. "Which side were you on?" Taemin asked quietly. "I was Anchored," Hyun-woo replied. "I believed our humanity was tied to our physical existence. That without bodies, without the ability to touch and taste and feel, we would become something else entirely. Not better. Just different. And I feared we would lose something precious in the transformation." The holograms showed vast gatherings of humanity debating across light years. Trillions of voices in discussion. Art and science both dedicated to answering one question: should humanity ascend? The Ascended One, Hyun-woo said, and his voice was hollow. Not through reason or argument, but through force. They developed technology to trigger ascension forcibly. They believed they were saving us, lifting us to a higher plane. They activated it across the entire galaxy simultaneously. The holograms showed what happened next. Every human, everywhere, torn from physical reality in an instant. Trillions of consciousnesses pulled upward into dimensions that normal minds could not perceive. The process was violent, catastrophic. The quantum disruption it caused radiated outward, destroying most advanced technology. The exotic energies released transformed matter itself, crystallizing cities and structures. The galaxy was sterilized in moments, Hyun-woo said. Everything humanity built was either destroyed or transformed. And every human consciousness was yanked into higher dimensions. I do not know if they survived. I do not know if ascension succeeded or if they all died screaming. I chose to remain behind. Dozens of others did too, choosing death as humans over whatever existence awaited above. Min Seo had been quiet throughout, but now she spoke. You said dozens remained. Where are they? Dead, Hyun-woo replied simply. We knew we were choosing death. We recorded our personalities, our knowledge, everything we were into archives like this one. Then, we died as humans, peacefully, on our own terms. I am not truly Hyun-woo. I am his ghost, his message, his warning. Hannah leaned forward. Warning? Warning about what? The hologram's expression darkened. The technology for forced ascension still exists. The coordinates, the specifications, everything needed to attempt it again. Some of us believed future humans might try to replicate the shift, thinking they could do better. I am here to tell you, do not. Whatever happened to the Ascended, it was not paradise. There were signs, even before I died. Disturbances in higher dimensional space. The Ascended were not alone where they went. A chill ran through the boarding party. What do you mean? Day One asked. I mean something else exists in those higher dimensions. Something that noticed humanity's arrival. The last transmissions we received from partially ascended individuals suggested terror, not transcendence. But, the transmissions cut off so quickly, we could not be certain. Hyun-woo waved his hand, and new displays appeared. Throughout this archive, I have preserved the personality recordings of thousands of humans who chose to remain. Their knowledge, their memories, their skills. If humanity is to have a future, you must rebuild. But, you must rebuild carefully. I have also mapped every location in the galaxy where unusual quantum signatures persist. These are places where the shift's energy may have affected reality in unexpected ways. There are coordinates here for what I call reversion points, places where ascended humans might have fallen back into physical reality. Are you saying some of them came back? Taemin asked. I do not know, Hyun-woo admitted. But, the quantum mathematics suggest it is possible. If anyone survived up there, if anyone was strong enough or lucky enough, they might have fallen back down. Changed, certainly. But, perhaps still alive in some form. Min Seo stood and approached one of the display terminals. She began downloading information, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. Day One noticed her hands were shaking. There is more I must tell you, Hyun-woo said. This archive is shielded, but it cannot last forever. The neutron star's radiation will eventually overcome even these protections. You have perhaps 10,000 years before the archive is destroyed. Use this time wisely. Rebuild. Learn. Grow. But, please, do not make our mistake. We won't, Day One promised. I hope you mean that, Hyun-woo said softly. But, I have lived long enough to know that humanity always reaches for more. It is both our greatest strength and our fatal flaw. We never stop climbing, even when we should. Just promise me this: if you ever develop ascension technology again, make it a choice. Do not force it on anyone. Let people choose to remain human if they wish. Before anyone could respond, the archive's sensors began screaming alerts. Hannah rushed to check the readings and, her face went pale. "Commander, there is a quantum disturbance 8,000 light-years from here. One of the reversion points just activated. Something is broadcasting." Hyun-woo's hologram flickered. "Then, you must go. Someone or something has returned from higher dimensions. You must see what has become of them. Perhaps you can help them. Perhaps they can help you. Or perhaps..." He paused. "Perhaps you will learn what I suspected all along. That some doors, once opened, should never be closed. And, some places should never be visited." As the boarding party prepared to leave, Min Seo lingered behind, staring at the Ascension technology specifications on the display. Day One called her name twice before she responded, and, even then, her eyes seemed distant. The eternal horizon pulled away from the archive, heading toward coordinates that promised answers. Behind them, Hyun-woo's ghost stood alone in his sanctuary, surrounded by the recorded souls of humanity's final generation, waiting for the slow death that would come when the neutron star's fury finally broke through. The reversion point existed in a place where reality had broken. Ji-woo stared at her instruments in confusion as they approached. "Commander, the readings make no sense. Spacetime is showing 3 different configurations simultaneously. According to these scans, the planet ahead both exists and does not exist. It is solid matter and empty space at the same time. Is it dangerous?" Day One asked. "I do not know how to answer that question," Ji-woo admitted. "Reality itself is unstable here. I am reading temporal echoes, dimensional bleeding, quantum superposition on a massive scale. This is not natural. This is not even possible according to our physics." As they drew closer, the crew began experiencing strange phenomena. Taemin reported people seeing double, experiencing memories that were not their own, hearing voices that spoke in impossible languages. The ship's sensors showed corridors that were not on any deck plans. Navigation became unreliable as instruments reported the vessel in multiple locations at once. "Everyone to essential stations only," Day One ordered. "Non-essential personnel return to quarters and seal the doors. Do not trust what you see or hear until we understand what is happening." At the center of the disturbance was a structure. It hurt to look at directly. The human eye tried to process it as a building, but the mind rejected the image. It existed in 4 spatial dimensions, folding through reality in ways that made observers dizzy and sick. "Something is alive in there," Hannah said quietly. "I am detecting a quantum signature similar to human consciousness. But it is spread across multiple dimensional states. This person, if it is a person, exists in several places at once." Day One made the decision to take a shuttle down. Ji-woo volunteered to accompany him, and Hannah insisted on coming to study the phenomenon. Min Seo had been acting strangely since visiting the archive, so Day One assigned her to remain with the ship. She protested but obeyed. The planet's surface was like walking through a dream. The ground was solid beneath their feet, but sometimes they could see through it to alternative versions of the same location. The sky showed 2 different sun positions simultaneously. Trees existed as both living plants and crystallized structures, flickering between states. "Stay close," Day One ordered. "Do not separate under any circumstances." The 4-dimensional structure towered above them. As they approached, it seemed to notice them. The air itself began to vibrate. And then, reality bent, and they were inside without having walked through any door. She was waiting for them. The woman appeared human at first glance. But, as they watched, her form shifted. Sometimes she was solid. Sometimes she was translucent. Sometimes she seemed to exist in multiple positions at once, overlapping herself. Her eyes were the worst part, reflecting depths that should not exist in three-dimensional space. "You are real," the woman said, and her voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "You are actually real. Solid. Singular. Beautiful." Jiwoo gasped and grabbed her head. Images flooded her mind. The woman's memories, experiences, thoughts. All of them at once. 50,000 years of existence experienced in every possible variation simultaneously. "Stop," Jiwoo whispered. "Please stop. It hurts." The woman looked surprised, then concerned. The mental pressure eased. "I am sorry. I forgot. You are limited to linear experience. One moment following another. I have existed in quantum superposition for so long, I have forgotten what it means to experience time sequentially." "Who are you?" Daewon asked carefully. "I am Bo-Ra," the woman replied. "Or I was Bo-Ra. I am not certain anymore. I am every version of Bo-Ra that could have existed from the moment of the shift forward. I am Bo-Ra who died instantly. Bo-Ra who survived. Bo-Ra who went mad. Bo-Ra who found peace. Bo-Ra who became something beautiful. Bo-Ra who became something terrible. All of them. All at once." Hannah approached slowly, her scientific instrument scanning. "You were a child when the shift happened. Your consciousness was incompletely formed, still developing. The forced ascension could not process you correctly. You were pulled up but fell back down. You exist between dimensions." "Yes," Bo-Ra said, and she smiled sadly. "I am the lucky one. There are thousands like me scattered across the galaxy. The returned, we call ourselves. We fell back to physical reality but we are not entirely physical anymore. We are stuck between what we were and what we were supposed to become. Can you be healed?" Taemin asked gently. Bo-Ra laughed, and the sound echoed across multiple dimensions. "Healed? From what? From seeing all possibilities at once? From experiencing every moment of my existence simultaneously? From knowing what I am in every timeline, every version of reality?" Her expression darkened. "Or do you mean can I be made ignorant again? Can I be forced to forget what I have seen? What I know? What have you seen?" Jiwoo asked. Her head still ached, but the images had given her something. A connection to Bo-Ra. An understanding. Bo-Ra's form solidified slightly. When she spoke, her voice was grave. The Ascended did not enter paradise. They entered a trap. The structure around them changed, showing images. Higher dimensional space, impossible to fully comprehend but burned into their minds. Billions of human consciousnesses, pulled upward into realms beyond matter. And, there, waiting for them, something else. Entities vast beyond measure. Hungry. Ancient. Aware. There are things that live in higher dimensions, Bo-Ra explained. Things that have always existed there. They feed on consciousness, on thought, on the energy of minds. The ascended humanity arrived in their realm like a feast delivered to their door. Trillions of human souls, bright and burning with awareness. The perfect food. Daewon felt sick. "Are they all dead?" "Worse," Bo-Ra whispered. "They are being consumed slowly. The entities do not kill quickly. They feed gradually, eternally. The ascended are trapped, aware, suffering, for what may be forever. I hear their screams sometimes, echoing down through the dimensions. My mother is up there. My father. My friends. Everyone I knew. all of them screaming. Taemin's medical training made him ask the practical question. Why did you fall back? Why not them? Because I was incomplete, Boare replied. My consciousness was not fully formed when the shift happened. I was pulled up but, I was too small, too underdeveloped to fully exist there. I slipped through. Fell back down. But, I could not return completely. I am stuck in between, existing partially in both realms. The returned are all children or the very old, minds that were too weak or too fragile to be held in higher space. We are the debris that fell back to Earth. Hannah was recording everything frantically. How many returned are there? Thousands, Boare said. Scattered everywhere. Most have gone mad from experiencing all timelines simultaneously. Some have found ways to cope. A few, like me, have learned to communicate with solid humans. But, we are all trapped, unable to go up or down, stuck in this awful liminal space. Jiwoo stepped forward. Can we help you? Can we help the others? Boare's form flickered. Multiple versions of her expression showed simultaneously. Hope. Despair. Rage. Acceptance. Perhaps. There is ancient technology. Devices built by humanity's greatest minds in the years before the shift. They were designed to anchor reality, to prevent dimensional breaches. If you could find them and activate them, you could seal the boundaries between dimensions. Stop anything from coming down from above. Stop the entities from entering our reality. Would that help the Ascended? Day One asked. No, Boare said flatly. They are already trapped. Sealing the dimensions would not free them. It would only prevent the entities from following them down. Because that is what is happening, you see. The shift weakened reality. Created cracks. The entities are noticing our dimension now. They are beginning to push through. Eventually, they will come here. And, when they do, everything will be consumed. The horror of it settled over the crew like a shroud. Humanity had tried to ascend to godhood and, instead had opened a door to hell. Now hell was beginning to notice the physical universe. Where are these anchors? Day One asked. Boare's eyes glowed. Information flooded into Jiwoo's mind again, but, this time she was ready for it. Coordinates. 6 locations across the galaxy. Ancient facilities where reality anchoring technology waited. But, there is a cost, Boare warned. The anchors require a consciousness to power them. A human mind, permanently bonded to the device, existing as a dimensional seal. Whoever activates an anchor will never leave it. They will exist forever at the boundary of reality, holding it closed through sheer force of will. You would need 6 volunteers. 6 people willing to sacrifice everything to save a universe that no longer has humanity in it. Before Day One could respond, alarms screamed from their shuttle. Hannah checked her communicator and went pale. Commander, the ship is reporting a dimensional breach. Something has happened to Minesio. They ran back to the shuttle, but Boare's voice followed them. It has already begun. Someone on your ship touched the ascension technology. They tried to ascend themselves. The entities noticed. They are coming. When they reached orbit, the eternal horizon was in chaos. Minesio had used the knowledge from the archive to attempt a controlled ascension. She had wanted to understand. She had wanted to see what lay above. Now she was gone. Pulled screaming into higher dimensions through a crack she had opened in reality herself. And, worse, the crack was not closing. Through it, Day One could see impossible colors, hear sounds that should not exist. And, something on the other side was looking back. Looking down. Looking hungry. Boare appeared on their shuttle's viewscreen, her form flickering across multiple channels simultaneously. The anchors. You must activate them now. Before the crack widens. Before they come through. 6 anchors. 6 sacrifices. It is the only way to save reality itself. Day One looked at his crew, saw the fear in their eyes, and made the hardest decision of his life. Prepare 6 teams. We split up. We activate all 6 anchors simultaneously. And we pray that 6 people are willing to give everything to fix what humanity broke. In higher dimensional space, something that had no name smiled with hunger that knew no end. 6 ships. 6 teams. 6 sacrifices to save reality itself. The eternal horizon could not make the journey as one vessel. They split their forces, stripping smaller ships from the main hull and equipping them for independent travel. Each team received coordinates to one of the anchor locations. Each team knew that one of their members would not return. Day One took the first ship with Jiwoo. Their destination was Earth, the birthplace of humanity, now a tomb world where crystallized ruins stretched across dead continents. The anchor facility was buried beneath what had once been called the Pacific Ocean. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, Jiwoo kept glancing at Day One. She knew what he intended to do. She had known from the moment the teams were assigned. You are going to be the anchor, she said quietly. Day One did not deny it. I am the commander. The responsibility is mine. That is not how this works, Jiwoo protested. We should draw lots. Make it random. Fair. There is nothing fair about any of this, Day One replied. He guided the ship down through clouds that still held moisture despite 50,000 years without rain. But, I can make one thing right. I can make sure the person who leads you through this nightmare does not ask anyone to do what he would not do himself. The facility was exactly where Boare's coordinates had indicated. A massive underground complex, perfectly preserved, its walls covered in warnings written in dozens of languages. The anchor itself was a sphere of twisted metal and crystal, 3 meters across, hovering in a chamber that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. The process is automatic once initiated, Day One read from the ancient instructions displayed on holographic panels. Place one hand on the sphere. The anchor will bond with your consciousness, pulling it into a state of permanent dimensional awareness. You will exist at the boundary between realities, feeling every attempt at breach, every crack, every weakness. Your will alone must hold it closed. Jiwoo was crying. There must be another way. If there is, we do not have time to find it, Day One said gently. He removed his helmet and smiled at her. You are going to lead them, Jiwoo. You are young, but you are strong. Smarter than you think. Braver than you know. The crew will need someone to follow. Be that person. He placed his hand on the sphere before she could protest further. The reaction was immediate and terrible. Day One's body went rigid. His eyes turned white. His consciousness was pulled in directions that had no names, stretched across dimensional boundaries, expanded to perceive realities beyond physical comprehension. But, through it all, he remained aware. He felt the anchor activate, felt his will becoming a seal, a lock, a door that would never open. He felt the cracks in reality around Earth beginning to close, pushed shut by the force of his determination. His last words were spoken with a voice that echoed across multiple dimensions. Tell them we never stopped being human. Then, Commander Day One became something else. Not ascended. Not consumed. But, transformed into a guardian at the threshold of reality itself. Hannah and Kyung-soon reached the second anchor on a world that had once been a capital of human civilization. Cities that had housed billions now stood empty, their spires reaching toward dead skies. The anchor here was different, built into the planet's core itself. We will need to tunnel down, Kyung-soon said, checking the readings. Nearly 2,000 kilometers. They used the ship's cutting lasers to bore through rock that had not been touched in 50 millennia. As they descended, Hannah talked constantly, explaining the science behind the anchors, theorizing about dimensional physics, recording everything for posterity. Kyung soon recognized it for what it was. Hannah was preparing to die. She was making sure her knowledge would survive even if she did not. "It should be me," Kyung soon said as they reached the anchor chamber. "You are the chief science officer. Your mind is too valuable to lose." Hannah smiled. "That is exactly why it must be me. The anchors require consciousness, awareness, intelligence. They need someone who can understand what they are doing, who can adapt to unexpected dimensional stresses. An engineer is valuable, but a scientist who understands the fundamental nature of reality? That is what these devices need." She approached the anchor, a crystalline structure pulsing with inner light. "Besides, I have spent my entire life trying to understand the universe. This is the ultimate experiment. I will exist at the boundary of dimensions, experiencing realities that no one in normal space can perceive. I will see everything. Know everything. For a scientist, this is not death. This is transcendence of a different kind." Kyung soon tried to argue, but Hannah was already reaching for the crystal. Her last words were, "Remember to calibrate the quantum sensors properly. And tell Ji-woo she was right about the stellar drift calculations." Then, she was gone, her consciousness spread across dimensional barriers, becoming an anchor that would hold for millennia. Taemin and Subin found the third anchor in a medical research station orbiting a gas giant. They were not alone. The station's cryogenic bays still functioned, powered by ancient reactors that had outlasted civilizations. Inside were thousands of humans, frozen in time, waiting for a future that never came. "Children," Taemin whispered, staring through the frost-covered windows. "The elderly. People who were too sick to undergo the shift. They were left behind, frozen, with the promise they would be awakened when ascension could be made safe for them." Subin checked the systems. "The cryogenic equipment is failing. In another century, maybe two, it will shut down completely. They will die in their sleep." The anchor here was built into the station's power core. Activating it would stabilize the dimensional barriers around this entire region of space. But it would also require someone to remain, permanently bonded to the station, eternally vigilant. Taemin looked at the frozen children and made his decision. "Go back to the ship, Subin. Tell Ji-woo where these people are. Tell her that maybe, someday, humanity will be advanced enough to wake them safely. Tell her I chose to stay and guard them." "You cannot," Subin protested. "You are the chief medical officer. The crew needs you." "These people need me more," Taemin replied. He was already moving toward the anchor. "A doctor's duty is to protect life. I cannot wake them. I cannot save them from whatever comes after. But I can make sure they sleep peacefully, undisturbed by dimensional horrors. I can be their guardian." He activated the anchor and felt his consciousness merge with the station. Suddenly, he was aware of every frozen life, every heartbeat slowed to near stillness, every dream occurring in cold sleep. He would watch over them forever, a physician whose patients would never know they were being protected. Subin left him there, crying, carrying his message back to the fleet. Jae-hyun and Eun-ji encountered something unexpected at the fourth anchor location. A colony of the returned, dozens of them, existing in the same fractured state as Boare. They were a community of broken humans, some maintaining fragments of sanity, others completely lost to madness. Some begged to be killed. Others attacked, not meaning harm but unable to control their multidimensional existence. A few helped guide the team to the anchor, a device built into the heart of a shattered moon. "This place is a wound," one of the returned explained, their form flickering between states. "The shift toward reality open here. The entities push at it constantly. It must be sealed or they will come through. Jae-hyun understood. He was security chief. Protection was his purpose. He had a daughter among the crew, a young woman named Ae-in who looked at him with such pride. He wanted to see her grow, to see what humanity would become in this empty galaxy. But, more than that, he wanted to protect her. Protect all of them. Tell Ae-in I love her, he said to Eun-ji. Tell her every choice I made was to give her a future. He placed his hand on the anchor and felt reality shift around him. In the moment before his consciousness was pulled into dimensional awareness, he saw something that gave him hope. In the higher space, in the realm where entities fed on the ascended, he caught a glimpse of Min-seo. She was still conscious, still aware, still fighting. She had not been consumed yet. She was resisting. Then, Jae-hyun became the anchor, and his will locked the dimensional barrier shut. Doon was the youngest officer on the Eternal Horizon, barely 20 years old. She had joined the crew just before their ill-fated jump. Now she stood with one ship at the 5th anchor location, in deep space far from any star. You should go back, one ship told her. You are too young for this. Let me be the anchor. You are the best navigator we have, Doon replied calmly. Ji-woo will need you to guide the fleet. I am just a junior officer. No one needs me. That is not true, one ship protested. Maybe not, Doon agreed. But, it is practical. And, someone has to do this. She looked at the anchor, a device floating in the void, held in place by forces that defied gravity. I am afraid. But, I think everyone is afraid. The difference is whether you let fear stop you. She activated the anchor before one ship could argue further. Her consciousness expanded, stretched across the void, becoming a guardian of empty space. She would remain forever young in this moment, forever vigilant, forever human. Yunho and Seo-jun reached the 6th anchor in the most dangerous location of all. Inside a black hole's ergosphere, where spacetime itself spiraled endlessly. The anchor here was the largest, the most critical, holding shut the biggest crack in reality. The calculations are precise, Yunho said, working frantically. The anchor must be activated at exactly the right moment, when all 6 are synchronized. If the timing is off by even a microsecond, the entire network could fail. He was an engineer. Numbers and precision were his language. He understood the mechanics of salvation in ways others could not. As the countdown approached, he made his decision. Tell them I was honored to serve, he said to Seo-jun. Tell them humanity survives because we chose to protect it. The 6th anchor activated. Yunho's consciousness merged with quantum mathematics, with the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. In his final moments, he saw what the others had seen. Min-seo, still alive in higher dimensions, still fighting, still human. And he saw millions of other ascended humans, trapped but aware, hoping that someone, somewhere, would remember them. The 6 anchors synchronized. Across the galaxy, dimensional barriers slammed shut. The cracks sealed. The entities from higher dimensions found their path blocked by 6 human wills, holding reality together through sheer determination. On the Eternal Horizon, Ji-woo stood on the bridge, now commanding a crew reduced from 4,000 to 3,994. She had lost her commander. Lost friends. Lost people she had barely known but who had given everything. Reality stabilized. The ship sensors showed the dimensional breaches closing. They had done it. They had saved the physical universe from invasion. But, at what cost? Ji-woo opened a communication channel to all remaining crew. The anchors are active. The sacrifices have been made. 6 of our own now stand guard at the boundaries of reality, holding back forces we barely understand. They will remain there forever, eternal guardians, undying protectors. We owe them everything. We owe them our memory. We owe them a future worth the price they paid. And, from higher dimensions, from the place where the Ascended suffered eternal torment, a message came through. Minasio's voice, distorted but recognizable. You stopped them from coming down. But, you did not stop us from being up here. Find a way to bring us home. The planet they named Remembrance was beautiful. It orbited a stable yellow star in a region of space that had somehow escaped the worst effects of the shift. Its atmosphere was breathable. Its oceans were clean. Its land was fertile and waiting. 3,994 humans stood on its surface 6 months after the anchoring. They were all that remained of humanity in physical reality. The last true humans in an empty galaxy. Ji-woo had aged 10 years in those 6 months. The weight of command, of responsibility, of survival had carved lines into her young face. She stood now in what they called Memorial Plaza, looking at 6 statues carved from local stone. The statues had no faces. That had been her decision. Because they could be anyone, she had explained to the crowd at the dedication ceremony. Any of us might be called to sacrifice for humanity. That is what makes us human. Not our technology. Not our power. But, our willingness to save each other. Behind the statues, names were carved into a wall of black stone. Day 1. Hannah. Taemin, Jae-hyun. Daeun. Yoon-ho. The 6 anchors. The guardians who held reality together. But, Ji-woo knew the wall was incomplete. It held 6 names, but, it should hold trillions. Every human consciousness trapped in higher dimensions deserved to be remembered. Every member of the Ascended who suffered eternal torment at the hands of dimensional entities deserved acknowledgement. She just did not have a wall large enough for that many names. The settlement was growing. Kyung-soon had used Hannah's notes to design buildings that could withstand any dimensional instability. Soo-bin had mapped the planet completely, finding ideal locations for agriculture and industry. Eun-ji had begun cataloging the local ecosystem, searching for any signs that the shift had affected life here. Most importantly, children were being born. 3 in the first month. 7 in the second. The number grew each week. Humanity had a future again, even if that future would be built slowly, carefully, 1 generation at a time. Seo-jun found Ji-woo in the plaza late one evening. Commander, we have completed the memorial garden. Would you like to see it? She followed him to a space at the edge of the settlement. Here, real plants from Earth's genetic archives had been grown. Flowers that had not bloomed in 50,000 years now opened their petals to an alien sun. Trees that had been extinct provided shade. And, among them, 6 small monuments marked the places where the anchors stood. We can communicate with them, Seo-jun explained. Not often. Not easily. But, the anchors are conscious, aware. They can send brief messages through dimensional fluctuations. Day 1 says to tell you that you are doing well. Hannah has been observing stellar formations from her position and confirms your choice of planet was excellent. Taemin reports the frozen humans remain stable. The others have similar messages. Ji-woo felt tears on her face. They are still themselves. Still human. Yes, Seo-jun confirmed. They sacrifice everything, but they keep their humanity. That is the difference between them and the Ascended. The Ascended tried to transcend humanity. The anchors chose to preserve it. Over the following months, something unexpected happened. Eun-ji's work with the return began showing results. Boare had agreed to come to Remembrance, bringing several other returned with her. Regular exposure to baseline humanity was helping stabilize their quantum states. It is like an anchor, Boare explained, her form flickering less than before. Your solid, singular existence reminds us what we were. Pulls us back toward physical reality. We may never fully return, but we are becoming less fractured. More ourselves. Ji Woo saw opportunity in this discovery. If we can help the returned, perhaps we can help the ascended. Perhaps we can build a bridge between dimensions. Not to ascend, but to descend. To bring them home. The idea consumed her. She established the Dimensional Rescue Initiative, dedicating every resource she could spare to understanding higher dimensional physics. Kyung soon became its director, using Hannah's research as a foundation. The work was slow. Painfully slow. But they made progress. They learned to send brief messages into higher dimensions. They learned to detect ascended consciousnesses. They learned the mathematical principles that govern transcendence. And they learned that Min Seo was still alive. Still fighting. She had somehow resisted consumption for over a year, her consciousness maintaining cohesion through sheer stubbornness. She had become something of a legend among what remained of the ascended, a symbol that resistance was possible. "We are organizing," came one of her messages, barely comprehensible through dimensional static. "The entities are vast, but we are many. We are learning to fight back. Keep working. We are not giving up. Bring us home." 3 years after landing on Remembrance, the population had grown to over 5,000. New humans, born on this world, ran through streets built by the survivors. They played games, learned lessons, and grew up hearing stories about the 6 anchors who held reality together. Every child learned the history. How humanity had reached too far and fallen into darkness. How the shift had stolen trillions of souls. How 6 heroes had given everything to save what remained. How Commander Ji Woo had led the survivors to a new beginning. But Ji Woo made sure they learned something else too. We are not building a new civilization to forget the old one. We are building it to save them. Every advance we make in science, every discovery, every breakthrough, brings us closer to rescuing the ascended. That is our purpose. That is our covenant. We do not abandon our people. 5 years after Remembrance was founded, Kyung soon made a breakthrough. She found a way to create a stable bridge into higher dimensions, a passage that could potentially allow consciousness to travel safely back down to physical reality. "It requires enormous energy," she explained to Ji Woo and the Council. "More than we currently have. We would need to build stellar collectors, harness the power of the sun itself. It will take decades, maybe a century to develop the infrastructure. But it is possible. We can bring them back." The decision was unanimous. Humanity would dedicate itself to this goal, no matter how long it took. 10 years after landing, they succeeded in bringing back the first ascended human. The process was terrifying. Energy flowed through the dimensional bridge in amounts that threatened to tear reality apart. The 6 anchors strained to hold the barrier stable. But, slowly, carefully, a consciousness descended from higher space, guided by mathematical precision and desperate hope. The body they had prepared in the medical bay was a clone, grown from genetic material in the archives. It was empty, waiting. As the consciousness entered it, the body's eyes opened. Min Seo gasped her first breath in over a decade. She was confused at first. Traumatized. She had spent 10 years in higher dimensions, experiencing torments beyond description, fighting entities that fed on thought itself. Her mind bore scars that no physical injury could match. But she was alive. She was human. She was home. When she finally understood where she was, what had happened, what Ji Woo and the others had built, she wept. "You came for me. You actually came for me." "We came for all of you," Ji Woo replied. "You are just the first. But you will not be the last. We have trillions more to save." Min Seo recovered slowly over months. Taemin's replacement, a young doctor named Ho Jin, worked with her carefully. The psychological trauma of her experience would never fully heal, but she was determined to help the rescue effort. "I saw them," she told the council during her first testimony. "Billions of human consciousnesses, trapped, suffering, but not broken. They are organizing up there. Resisting. Waiting for rescue. Some have been consumed already, lost forever. But many remain aware, holding on to their humanity even in that hell. They need us. They need this bridge you are building." Her words galvanized the entire settlement. The Dimensional Rescue Initiative became humanity's central mission. Everything else was secondary to bringing the Ascended home. 20 years after Remembrance was founded, the population exceeded 20,000. They controlled multiple star systems. They had built the infrastructure to bring back dozens of Ascended humans each year. The process was still slow, still dangerous, but it was working. Each Ascended who returned brought knowledge, technology, understanding of dimensional physics that no physical being could have discovered. They also brought trauma, nightmares, and the scars of decades spent in torment. But they brought hope too. The 6 anchors remained at their posts, eternal guardians. They could not be relieved. Their consciousness was permanently bonded to the dimensional barriers. But they were not forgotten. Every child on Remembrance learned their names. Every building bore a plaque honoring their sacrifice. Every medical oath included the phrase Taemin had spoken: "First, remain human." Boare and the returned had fully integrated into society. They would never be entirely physical again, but they had found peace in their fractured existence. They served as advisors, translators, bridges between dimensions. Their unique perspective was invaluable. 50 years after landing, Jiwoo was old. Her hair had gone gray. Her hands shook with age. She had led humanity through its darkest time and into a new era. She had kept the covenant. She stood in Memorial Plaza one final time, looking at the faceless statues. "We are bringing them home," she whispered to the stone guardians. "Slowly. But we are doing it. We have saved thousands already. We will save millions. Eventually, we will save them all. That is my promise to you." From her position at the dimensional boundary, Hannah's consciousness touched Jiwoo's mind briefly. It was not words, not exactly. But Jiwoo felt approval, pride, and gratitude. 100 years after Remembrance, humanity numbered in the millions across 20 systems. The Dimensional Rescue Initiative had become the largest organization in human space. They had rescued 50,000 ascended humans. It was a tiny fraction of the trillions trapped above, but it was progress. Min Seo, now elderly herself, directed the rescue operations. She had dedicated her life to bringing her people home, driven by memory of the suffering she had endured and escaped. On the day they rescued the 50,000th Ascended, she stood in Memorial Plaza and spoke to the statues. "You held reality together so we could do this. You gave us time. Thank you." 1,000 years after Remembrance, humanity had spread across hundreds of systems. They had perfected the rescue process. Millions of ascended humans had been brought home, given new bodies, returned to physical existence. The work continued. The 6 anchors still held their posts, eternal and vigilant. The entities from higher dimensions had not given up, but they could not break through. 6 human wills, stubbornly refusing to yield, kept reality safe. And every human being, from the youngest child to the oldest elder, knew the story. Knew the covenant. Knew that humanity's defining characteristic was not intelligence or technology or power. It was the absolute, stubborn, irrational refusal to abandon each other. No matter the cost. No matter the time. No matter the distance. Humanity came back for its own. Always. That was what it meant to be human.